Claire had been denying herself everything for years just to take care of her disabled husband. But one day, Brian forgot his phone in the kitchen, and when Claire accidentally turned on his voice message for her mother-in-law, she went pale from what she heard. Before we continue, please let us know which country you're watching this video from, and also check if you're subscribed to the channel, as I share interesting life stories with you every day. Enjoy listening. She barely held herself up as she exited the cosmetics company building. The workday had exhausted her to the limit. Another round of product checks, new recipes, and constant discussions with suppliers. All the responsibility lay on her, and it had long become a habit. She trudged to the bus stop, mechanically counting the days until payday in her head. Familiar thoughts swirled: mortgage, daughter, Brian. Claire sighed wearily. Her husband, once a strong and cheerful man, was now like a shadow of himself. After losing his job due to illness, the entire family burden fell on her shoulders. She initially believed it would be temporary, that he would cope, find some way to work, but year after year, nothing changed. She slowly ascended to her floor and opened the door. The apartment was quiet. Brian was, as usual, lying in the living room, staring at the television. "Hi," she said, taking off her coat. "Uh-huh," he replied without even looking at her. Just another evening, she thought. Claire put the kettle on and fell into thought. Once, Brian had been entirely different. He started working because he didn't want to waste time on prolonged academic pursuits. Right after school, he went to a technical school, trained as a driver, and got a job at a bus depot. At first, he drove city routes, but later he qualified for intercity drives. He enjoyed the job, the changing landscapes, the new cities, but his body couldn't take the years of sedentary work, constant vibrations, poor nutrition, and chronic stress. At 38, he ended up in the hospital with severe back pain, followed by a heart crisis. Doctors urgently recommended he change jobs, but Brian stubbornly refused. He could no longer move without pain. It was then that his mother, Margaret, who worked in a high position at a social fund, arranged for him to receive disability status. Claire accepted this as an inevitability. She genuinely believed he could no longer work, as Brian complained that he couldn't sit, walk, or even stand without pain. Since then, she took on all the responsibilities. Margaret was a woman of strong character. Her life revolved around caring for her son, and now she believed Claire should continue this mission. "You're not taking care of Brian well enough," she would say at every opportunity. "He needs support, attention." Claire didn't argue, though something inside her sank. She worked every day, paid the bills, provided food, medicines, and the mortgage, while Brian only complained about life. To her mother-in-law, this was not an argument. "You know how hard it is for him morally," she reminded. "You should cook something tasty more often, instead of your quick dinners." Claire gritted her teeth, as if she had time for culinary masterpieces. After her mother-in-law arranged for her husband's disability, he completely gave up. He didn't search for work, showed no interests, only complained about his life. Meanwhile, Margaret frequently repeated, "He's disabled. You must support and care for him. After all, you're his wife." On the other hand, Claire noticed that Brian didn't even try to look for options to work remotely. The only thing he did was go for a single prescribed walk for an hour and a half each day, then lie back on the couch and turn on the TV. Claire had adapted to living in survival mode. Day by day, she woke up early, went to work, and then returned home in the evening, where endless chores awaited her. Once, several years ago, Richard Hale, her boss at work, spoke of corporate tickets for a sanatorium offered once a year to the best employees. "Claire, you need a break. You always achieve excellent results. Take advantage of this opportunity for yourself," he said, handing her a document listing available resorts. Claire took a quick glance at the papers but immediately returned them. A vacation was something far off and unrealistic to her. She couldn't afford to relax when Brian was at home, who would struggle without her. But then she had another idea. "Can I arrange this ticket for my husband?" she asked. Richard Hale raised his eyebrows in surprise, but nodded in agreement. Claire explained that Brian had serious health issues and that the sanatorium would help him recover. So began a tradition. Almost every year, she asked to send Brian to the sanatorium instead of herself. He would go for treatment, and deep down, she hoped it would help him feel better, that after these trips, he would find at least a little side job. But every time he returned, the same thing happened. Brian claimed the sanatorium was a complete waste of time, that nothing helped him, and doctors only shrugged their shoulders. He would lie back on the couch again, complain about life, and again completely disconnect. Yet Claire continued to hope. One working day, Richard Hale called her into his office. He was in high spirits and immediately announced that there was an excellent opportunity for her. A business trip to Paris for months at one of the leading cosmetics factories, fully paid accommodation, good salary, and, most importantly, Emily could come along, being enrolled in school at the embassy. Claire listened, but instead of joy, a sense of anxiety grew inside her. She knew this was a chance any professional in her field would dream of. Paris was the level, new perspectives, a chance to start a different life. But immediately Brian came to her mind. He wouldn't be able to manage without her. He didn't work. He couldn't even buy groceries for himself. Who would take care of him? The answer was obvious. Claire said no and immediately felt a heaviness in her heart. She knew she was making the right decision, but for some reason, it didn't bring relief. She left the office and lingered at the window, looking at the gray, overcast city. Somewhere far away awaited another world, different opportunities, but that chance wasn't for her. Responsibility. She couldn't abandon Brian. She simply had no right to. But one day, Claire's life completely turned upside down. She returned home in the middle of the day. Claire had just taken off her coat when Brian peeked out of the room. The courier came. He brought Emily's headphones. "He's waiting downstairs," he said. Claire nodded instinctively, but Brian was already pulling on his jacket. "I'll go myself," he said and stepped out the door, heading to the elevator. Claire went to the kitchen. There was a mountain of dishes in the sink. Her daughter had hurried to school in the morning, and Brian had eaten lunch but, of course, hadn't cleaned up after himself. Claire picked up a sponge and turned on the faucet, but the pressure was excessive, and water splashed everywhere. A few drops hit the screen of Brian's phone that lay next to the sink. The touchscreen reacted, and at that moment, the phone vibrated, illuminating a voice message from Margaret. Claire didn't plan to listen, but as she pushed it away, she heard her mother-in-law's voice. "Where are you rushing off to? I don't like your idea of moving in with Vanessa. I don't understand why you are doing this for her." Claire froze. "Vanessa? What's with Vanessa?" Her heart raced, and her fingers stiffened above the soapy water. She slowly turned her head towards the phone. 2 days ago, it had been Brian's birthday, and she had given him that new smartphone. If she remembered correctly, he had removed the lock. She picked up the phone and entered the messenger. Claire scrolled back through the messages and began to listen to the previous ones. The first message was from Brian, recorded that morning. "Mom, Vanessa is such a wonderful girl. I've fallen in love with her. I want her to live with me. I've already planned everything. Claire told me she turned down the trip to Paris, but I'll do everything to convince her. This is our chance and a push for her success in her career. In short, she will even be grateful to me for insisting she think of herself and not just about me, always worrying." Claire sat down on a stool, feeling her fingers grow cold. The next message was from her mother-in-law. "Brian, you know how much I dislike your wife. But you have to understand that if Claire finds out you brought a new woman into your apartment while she's away, it's going to be the end for you." There was a response from Brian's voice. "Mom, why are you always making a big deal out of nothing? Neither I nor she are talking to each other. We'll just live peacefully in the apartment, and my wife will send us money from France." "Well, that's clear," a confident, calm voice responded. "And for me, it's become just a joke of fate." Laughter from Brian followed, which sent a shiver of horror through Claire. Then another voice message from Margaret. "What are you, an idiot? You can't hide a shovel in a sack. When Claire finds out, you'll be left with nothing. Do you really think they'll renew your disability next year? Not a chance. You'll have to look for work. Claire believes you're really disabled. She doesn't understand that it's because of me that you've been living off benefits and haven't worked. Then came a message from Brian. And screw her. She's half owner of the apartment, and then I'll file for alimony. I'm disabled. Let her work more to take care of our daughter and me. Brian's voice was confident and calm, as if it were a regular work plan. The last message was the one that had started it all. Claire leaned back, feeling the ground disappear beneath her feet. Everything she believed in crumbled within minutes. She had thought Brian couldn't work, while in reality, he just didn't want to. She had considered him grateful for the support she provided, but he had wanted to rid himself of her, leaving her with debts and financial burdens. She thought she had a family, but in reality, she was just a cash cow to them. Everything tightened in her chest, and the next moment, she abruptly grabbed her phone and rushed out of the apartment. As she descended the stairs, she found Richard Hale's number in her call list and, with trembling fingers, dialed him. Claire, is something wrong? His voice was concerned. She inhaled deeply. I agree, she exhaled. I'm going to Paris. Glad to hear it. He replied without further questions. We'll process the documents by tomorrow. Claire hung up the phone and felt an internal shift. She would no longer sacrifice herself. France had become a new home for her, and working at the cosmetics company inspired her. Opportunities opened one after another. Her daughter Emily quickly adapted to the school at the embassy, made friends, and enjoyed life. And there was Richard, thoughtful, attentive, reliable. He didn't pressure her, didn't rush her. He was simply there. He invited her for walks through the evening city, showed her cozy streets and cafes where they served hot chocolate with vanilla. It felt unexpectedly easy with him. She had never believed in miracles or starting anew, but now looking into his eyes, she knew she had finally made the right choice. 2 years after stepping foot in Paris, Claire's life had completely transformed. She was no longer the exhausted woman burdened by a thankless household. Now, Claire was the creative director at an international cosmetics brand, regularly invited to speak at global conferences on innovation and workplace equality. She had rebuilt not just her career, but her sense of self. To many, she became a symbol of strength, a reminder that women who've been overlooked, undervalued, and overworked can rise, and rise with grace. Her daughter Emily flourished at the international school, joining art clubs and dreaming of becoming an architect. Every afternoon, the two of them walked hand in hand through the cobblestone streets of Paris, their laughter echoing through the air like they'd never known darkness. And Richard? He remained by her side, not possessive, not demanding, just quietly present. He brought her peace, and in his presence, Claire learned what love without sacrifice could feel like. Back in their old city, Brian sat slumped on a worn-out couch, staring at a flickering TV screen. After Claire left, everything unraveled quickly. Margaret, his controlling mother, retired due to health issues. Without her influence, the social fund reevaluated Brian's disability status. Fraud was discovered. His benefits were revoked. Forced to find a job, Brian realized no employer wanted to hire a man known for living off lies. The apartment was seized to pay off mounting debts. Vanessa left, too, leaving behind a single note. I can't live with someone who can't stand on his own. One chilly autumn evening, Brian scrolled through Facebook and stumbled upon a magazine article featuring Claire. There she was, standing on a rooftop overlooking the Eiffel Tower, smiling softly, eyes glowing with a calm light. The same woman he once knew, but now radiant in her own strength. He stared at the photo, typed out a message, then slowly deleted it. Some things, once lost, can never be reclaimed. Claire's story wasn't just a transformation, it was a revelation. That no one is obligated to suffer endlessly. That love does not mean self-erasure. And that kindness should be offered, but only to those who value it. If anyone out there is living like Claire once did, endlessly giving, quietly breaking, know this: change is hard, but a lifetime of regret is harder. Because sometimes, it takes just one brave step out of the shadows to discover the entire world has been waiting for you in the light. What would you have done in Claire's place? Write your thoughts in the comments below. We really value your opinion. Thank you for listening, and see you tomorrow.